Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that pretty much everyone deals with at some point, and honestly, it can be totally exhausting. We're talking about workplace perception and office politics. Look, if you've ever felt like you're putting in incredibly hard work only to have it overshadowed because someone else is constantly whispering in the boss's ear, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to unpack a really fascinating masterclass on this exact topic. It's guided by a seasoned mentor named Neha, and she essentially helps a struggling new employee completely rewrite their workplace survival guide. So let's jump right into it.
To kick things off, picture this highly relatable situation. You've got a sincere, hardworking new employee who just joined the organization. They've got this core belief that if they just keep their head down, do their job, and perform well, everything else is naturally going to fall into place. Sounds reasonable, right? But then they hit a massive roadblock. There's a colleague, let's call her Sneha, who basically monopolizes the manager's time. She overshares every tiny incident, important or not. Because of this constant stream of chatter, the manager starts to trust Sneha more by default. And worse, without even bothering to hear the full story, the manager starts getting critical of our sincere newcomer. Honestly, it's incredibly disheartening.
So, understandably, things reach a boiling point. The newcomer finally goes to get some advice from an experienced mentor, Neha, and they just let it all out with this frustrated plea. I don't understand what's happening. I came here to work, not to play politics. My manager seems to believe others before listening to me. What should I do? It's like the ultimate cry of workplace frustration. But instead of just joining in on a pity party, Neha smiles and totally reframes the entire problem. Neha introduces this profound mindset shift. You see, when we feel cornered at work, we instantly label it as unfair office politics. But Neha points out that what feels like a targeted, malicious attack is actually often just a matter of perception or a gap in communication. Or sometimes it's simply the reality that the manager has a longer shared history with the other employee. That shared history naturally creates a baseline of trust that a newcomer just hasn't had the time to build yet. And that brings us to the absolute golden rule of Neha's advice. She says, don't waste your energy trying to prove someone else wrong. Invest it in making your own work impossible to misunderstand. This is literally a game changer. It instantly shifts you away from playing the helpless victim and instead puts you on the offense, using the only thing you actually control. You're no longer trying to change Sneha. You're changing how loud your own work speaks for you. Okay, so how do you actually do that? Step 1 is controlling what you can control. Instead of agonizing over office gossip, Neha says you have to focus on relentless professional consistency. Every single day, you complete your work on time. You ask thoughtful questions so you don't make avoidable mistakes. You keep meticulous records of your tasks, and you always follow through on your commitments. And yes, you stay professional, even when you are intensely frustrated. Doing this day in and day out is incredibly powerful because it slowly but surely replaces all those negative assumptions with undeniable evidence that you know what you're doing. Which leads right into step 2, never fight perception with emotion. When someone challenges you or your work, our immediate human instinct is to get super defensive, right? We want to yell, "That's unfair!" But Neha wisely points out that when emotions get loud, people only remember the emotion. They totally forget the truth. So take a breath. Instead of getting upset, say, let me share the timeline and the information I have. You're replacing volatile emotion with cold, hard facts. Cold facts reduce confusion instantly, and keeping your cool builds massive credibility. Moving on to step 3, this is all about taking control of your own narrative. Do not wait for others to define your work for you. Neha recommends building direct trust by feeding your manager regular, proactive updates. Tell them exactly what you've completed, what your current priorities are, flag any potential risks nice and early, and clearly outline where you need their support. When your manager hears these things directly from you on a consistent basis, they simply stop needing secondhand information from gossiping colleagues. Now, for step 4, the newcomer naturally asks the big question. Should I just tell the manager what Sneha is doing? Should I expose her? Neha answers with one piercing question. Does this help the business, or does it only continue the conflict? Think about it. If your action is just going to fuel more drama, stay entirely out of it. Getting dragged into the mud doesn't clean your name, it just gets you dirty too. People inevitably forget gossip over time, but they absolutely remember professionalism. And that professionalism needs to extend beyond just your boss. Step 5 is earning trust across the entire team. Relying purely on your manager's opinion is a pretty fragile strategy.
Neha reminds us that managers form their opinions from multiple sources, not just the loudest person in the room. So if you're consistently helping your teammates, sharing your knowledge, acting respectfully, and delivering on your promises, you're building a massive coalition of trust. If 5 different colleagues consistently describe you as dependable, that one negative voice trying to bring you down completely loses its power. Of course, you need to back up all this dependability. So step 6 is your quietest but absolute clearest defender. Keep evidence, not arguments. Documentation protects your work without creating a single ounce of workplace drama. Think of this as your professional insurance policy. Keep track of your completed tasks, file away emails that show key decisions, organize your meeting notes, and for sure, save any positive feedback you get. Evidence might speak quietly, but in a corporate setting, it speaks louder than anyone's opinion. While you're busy documenting your own work, step 7 requires you to be a bit of an observer. Learn before you judge. Before you conclude that someone is actively out to get you, step back and look at the unique culture of your workplace. Pay attention to how decisions are actually made. Figure out how your managers prefer to communicate. Do they like quick chats or detailed emails? Define what success really looks like to them and notice which behaviors naturally earn trust. Once you understand the unwritten rules of your company's culture, you can operate so much more effectively. This brings us to step 8, and it's a tough one for a lot of us. Patience. The newcomer obviously wants the manager to trust them right now, today. But Neha shares this beautiful metaphor. She says, trust is like planting a tree. You water it every day, even when you don't see growth. Months later, everyone notices the shade, but they rarely see the daily effort that created it. Building a bulletproof reputation doesn't happen by winning a single dramatic argument. It grows through repeated, reliable actions over a long period of time. But what if you feel like it's already too late? This is the newcomer's ultimate anxiety, right? What if the manager already firmly believes you're the problem? Is your career just over? Neha's answer is a confident no. Do not assume the relationship can't be fixed. Managers absolutely change their opinions, but they only do it when they consistently receive new evidence. You can't just try to win one conversation to clear your name. You have to aim to win many, many weeks of consistent performance. So if that manager does actually give you critical or negative feedback, you have to use it as a strategic roadmap. First, listen carefully. Don't get defensive. Then ask for specific examples so you know exactly what they're talking about and clarify their expectations moving forward. Finally, and this is the most crucial part, you have to improve visibly. When leadership actually watches you grow and adapt based directly on their input, their perceptions don't just change, they often end up becoming your biggest advocates. As we wrap up this masterclass, Neha leaves the newcomer with 3 incredibly powerful contrasts to keep in mind. First, gaining attention quickly versus earning genuine respect. You are inevitably going to meet people in your career who are absolute masters at grabbing quick attention. But Neha warns us, never confuse someone who just has the spotlight with someone who has actually earned deep, genuine respect from the people around them. Second is the contrast between speaking often and having true influence. Just because a colleague, like Sneha from our earlier example, speaks constantly and inserts herself into every single conversation, do not mistake that sheer volume for actual influence within the company. Noise is not power. True influence is earned through the quiet consistency of great work, not just how frequently you hear their voice. And finally, Neha highlights the difference between proximity to the manager and having a permanent position. You'll definitely see people who seem incredibly tight with the boss today, but a close relationship right now does not guarantee job security tomorrow, especially if that relationship isn't backed up by accurate work and a really steady character when the pressure is on. Temporary alliances fade away, but a foundation built on professional excellence is what actually endures. So to wrap up this explainer, I really want you to remember this core takeaway. Office politics might shape today's conversation, but your professionalism shapes tomorrow's reputation. A resilient, successful career is never built by defeating your coworkers or winning some petty office argument. It's built by investing in your own undeniable, consistent excellence over the long haul. So I'll leave you with this thought the next time you walk into work. Are you going to let the loudest voice in the room write your story, or are you going to build a reputation that is simply impossible to misunderstand? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep building that shade tree.